Poptropica, one of the greatest children's games ever created. And if you stick with me through this video, I'm going to be going over a bunch of different islands and what really made this game so special. And also check this out right here. Yes, this is an official Poptropica guide I bought back at a book fair in like 2012 or something like that, I can't remember. But there's a secret in this book that you need to see, and I'll be showing it at the end of the video. So getting right into it, we have yes, what made Poptropica so special? And clearly the aesthetic played a big part in that. I mean, just look at the loading screen. Good God, man, it's beautiful. The blues and the other hues and tones all just complement each other so well. I mean, the character models themselves are also abstract and quirky, but it all works together. And I gotta say, this is the most uniquely designed children's game I've ever seen. And I mean, the customization gives Poptropica that low random kind of feel, but then I think the names tie it all back together because they're also just as random. And not even just that either, because of how overly cartoonish and stylized the characters are, their faces are always giving you that extra level of expressiveness. Like, look at this right here. Look at this emote and tell me you wouldn't want to do this in real life. Okay, no, yeah, you're right. Only Drake does that kind of stuff. But that's besides the point. The point is, this game is unique in everything it does. I mean, just look at the store, the credits you use, the outfits you can get. It's all just such a unique way of trying to get you to buy membership. Not me though, I'm not falling for that. Okay, but in all seriousness, the best part about the aesthetic of this game had to have been the mode of transportation, because, gang, you're in a blimp.
Even saw the lights of the Goodyear blimp, and it read ice cubes up.
Yeah, blimp gotta be easily the best mode of transportation in any video game. Well, that or I guess traveling around in a balloon. Nah, I'm just joking, of course. But a mode of transportation is used to get to places, and in this game, you're trying to get to... And the first batch of islands I'm going to talk about is what I would call the classics. And starting off, we have the one that started it all, early Poptropica. Oh, and by the way, y'all better get used to footage from this Think Noodles guy, because he's the undisputed GOAT of Poptropica. No debate. But yeah, in this island, you talk to a bunch of pixelated characters, which is the whole aesthetic of this island. Because according to Poptropica, just make it pixelated and it's old now. Getting back to the island though, and this is honestly what makes Poptropica such a good game, is it has a winning formula. You jump, and then you get an item, and then you use the item. That's it. And yeah, obviously there's a lot more to it than that, but I think that's what makes a game so special. The gameplay has always been simple enough to where even a 5-year-old could understand it, but it's really the other things that aren't part of the core gameplay loop that Jeff Kinney, the creator of Poptropica and Diary of a Wimpy Kid, used to raise the difficulty of this game, and those are the puzzles. Which, listen man, some of these islands had some of the most diabolical and hardest puzzles I've ever seen in my life. Like, genuinely, what was Jeff Kinney and some of these developers on when they made these puzzles? There's absolutely zero chance that they expected kids to beat some of these islands. But getting back on track, early Poptropica was a pretty simple island. I mean, you really don't do much. You're trying to return like a pig and like a flag or something, and then you just kind of get your medallion and go. But I'd say there's some pretty cool set pieces and art design, and that jetpack gotta be the greatest item in Poptropica history, or at least one of. But we all know that even though this island isn't like a masterpiece or anything, it was the foundation for other islands like Sharktooth, which, just like early Poptropica, isn't the greatest island, but one thing that makes this island stand out and every other island after it is the aesthetic, which really worked here because it made you feel like you were on some mythical tiki island or something like that. But like early Poptropica, there isn't that much here. I mean, there's another cave section, which I'll admit these hieroglyphs are pretty cool. And this island technically has Poptropica's first boss fight, but it's not really that interesting. You beat it in like 2 seconds, and then you rescue these guys, and then you get your medallion, and that's it. But that didn't mean this island was bad, it was just simple. But a better example of one of these classic islands that showcased Poptropica's true potential was Time Tangle. And this island early on showcased Poptropica's greatest strength, its sense of adventure. Cause I already love time travel stories like Back to the Future or even ReZero, which by the way, that last one is kind of underrated, and if y'all like anime, y'all should check that one out. But when Poptropica did time travel, it was a banger. And this watch right here is a big reason why. Because honestly, that's an underrated element of Poptropica too, its ability to educate. Think about it, this island takes you from ancient Greece to Vikings to Da Vinci's workshop to even Mount Everest. What other game was doing that, man? But back to the story. The older version of yourself lets the current you know that the future has been destroyed. A time travel story where the future has been altered? Shocker, I know. But yeah, this island has you running around trying to return items to their original time period. And honestly, you would think because of how simple the concept is, it would get boring. boring, but it honestly doesn't. And all because when you explore, you can see old tribal civilizations, climb the Himalayan mountains, and you can even see the Great Wall of China as it's being built. You can do all those things because Poptropica allows you to explore, which really immerses you in the game. But the way the rest of the island goes is you return the last item, travel back to the future and realize that it's changed for the better, and then visit your old self for the medallion. Not the strongest island, but definitely laid the foundation for other islands like this next one, which honestly was the best out of the original islands that Poptropica made. Superpower Island. Oh, you thought I was gonna say 24 karat? Well, nah, because I'm not gonna lie, I think 24 karat is kind of overrated. But I'll get to why I think that in a second. For now, I gotta glaze Superpower Island, because this was technically the first Poptropica island I ever played. So I might be a little biased, I can't lie. But I can vividly remember it like it was yesterday. It was computer lab time and the teacher told us not to get on anything, we'll just say too mature. So what I did was load up a site called Funbrain. And I hope everyone watching this video is old enough to know what that is, but I guess if not, it was basically just another educational game site. But it was an actual educational game site, not like Cool Math where there was a bunch of stuff that, you know, was educational in quotation marks. Run 2, I'm looking at you. But Funbrain linked back to this site called Poptropica, and I remember seeing it for the first time. I was kind of confused. And I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was just another actual math game. So originally I didn't click it, but I remember coming back around and thinking, you know, maybe I should. So I did, and I was met with greatness. Superpower Island. And this island easily has some of the most memorable moments in all of Poptropica. Because you start off by going into this comic book shop, which honestly might be the most iconic location in the whole game. And it's owned by a guy called Ned, not declassified, but this guy's the GOAT. And you'll see why later, but basically he gives you this superhero guide. And this is because there was a prison break caused by a nuclear meteorite that flew into it. Which, I'm not gonna lie bro, if a meteorite flew into a prison, everyone would have been dead from the jump, let alone a nuclear meteorite running into it. This thing looks radioactive. But we'll go with the game logic, which is they all get powers and essentially they task you with stopping them. But whole time, do I look like Batman? Because y'all want me to stop them, but I don't have any type of powers, and the cops don't help you at all this island. They want me to end up like Daredevil so bad, like, bro, fight literally anyone else. You're not that guy, bro. But from here on out, the rest of the island is pretty simple. You basically just enter a bunch of boss fights. But I'm not gonna lie, we have to have some uncomfortable conversations about some of these bosses. Because just looking at this Crusher dude, it says he casually destroys cities. Like, that means bro might be putting up a fight with Homelander and like Deku. Or at the very least, it would be a close fight. Because then we also have a dude who has telekinesis, who we might as well just call like Charles Xavier or something. We have a speedster who basically is our reverse Flash. I mean, we even have someone who can basically do Naruto's shadow clones. Word 2, this island's rogues gallery is actually insane. It's gotta be up there with like Superman, the Flash, Batman, hell, even Spider-Man's. Oh, but I forgot to mention there's this dude who controls rats.
Look at this dude. God, bro.
Like, real talk, who invited you, gang? Blood thinks he's on the team. Like, no one's scared of you, lil bro. But yeah, basically, you just run the gauntlet with the rest of these enemies. And they're not the hardest boss fights by any means, but they're definitely some of the most fun on any island. And remember how I said Ned was the GOAT? That comes back in the final sequence where we start off getting this phone call from a booth, and all of a sudden we get powers. Well, I shouldn't say powers, more like you get the ability to fly. Close enough. But basically, after this, you take on Betty Jetty in like this weird flight battle. Because once again, it's simple. All you really do is dodge these green blasts, which kind of remind me of Starfire from Teen Titans. Which, once again, I gotta say, if our Poptropica character is taking down people like Starfire, Professor X, Reverse Flash, I mean, he's gotta be up there with characters like Goku and even Travis Scott in Fortnite, right? Alright, but back to the island. After catching up with Betty Jetty, you come down for one final confrontation, where Ned randomly decides, hey, Peacan's ready to eat for everyone. And basically, moving just like Batman, he delivers the final blow. So I guess that's why he's the one that gets the majority of the credit, but that's not really that big a deal. The bigger deal is at the end, he gets the medallion and he trades it to you for a glizzy. Yeah, maybe 24 Karat Island is better. Speaking of which, 24 Karat Island still is a good one. Now, do I like that they modernized it? No, but the OG still holds up to this day. And honestly, beyond just having one of the best main villains in Poptropica, the island's atmosphere is really depressing and kind of unsettling. But obviously in a good way, because it adds to the ambiance of the game. Kind of like Arkham Asylum. Okay, wait a minute, hear me out here. cartoonishly evil and over-the-top main villain whose whole aesthetic is kind of childlike, protagonist who doesn't have superpowers. Yeah, that kind of sounds like Arkham Asylum. Okay, I'm joking obviously, but you know you have a hit when one of the characters you created is one of the most popular in the entire franchise. Like, I'd be willing to bet a majority of the internet knows who Dr. Hare is, or at least has seen him before. But even with the memorable boss, I say this island is a little overrated because there really isn't that much to do. I mean, you're just kind of navigating a factory, and the goal is to free a bunch of people from Dr. Hare's mind control. And in my opinion, I don't think this computer game was that great of a boss fight. I think it was a little bit anticlimactic, but you know, it is what it is. Because as good as this one was, Spy Island was just better. Like, honestly, you could say that if each of the previous islands released by Poptropica was helping develop one of the core aspects of its identity, like if early Poptropica developed its core game mechanics and then Time Tangle developed its ability to educate, then this island was definitely its ability to tell a story. Because this dude, Director D, Director D.
子供の時から
Getting back to it, Director D essentially gives you this decoder kit, which I gotta say is another great aspect about Poptropica because it's items like this that really immerse you in the game. I mean, you really feel like a spy in this one, because this island is essentially all about using a bunch of these cool gadgets to free a bunch of these spies. And each one of the items is actually really useful throughout the island. And also, think about like the bow tie you get, because I'm not gonna lie, I felt like Spider-Man when I had that thing. Like, even after the island was over, I'd go back and just use it just because it was that fun. But essentially, this all culminates in you finding out that Director D was the real villain all along. And to this day, this is why I have trust issues, because the deception. The betrayal. Getting back to it though, of course you can't let him get away with this, so you gotta run the fade with a couple of his robots. But you make light work of them, so then it's onto him, who also kind of destroys himself. He's crashing his own vehicle into you and damaging himself in the process, kind of like Green Goblin in Spider-Man 1. But essentially he gets what's coming to him, because he goes bald at the end, and then that's pretty much it. And ultimately, I think this was a much better boss fight and island than 24 Karat, but I think the takeaway here is that these old islands really had this charm. But as good as these islands are, and Poptropica was as a whole, we gotta talk about these. Let me just start by saying I'm not going to talk a whole lot about these islands, nor do I feel compelled to. And honestly, these were the ones that weren't bad, they just weren't the greatest. But let me just make it clear that everything in the history of all media and fiction has some kind of flaw. And essentially what I'm trying to say is these islands don't make Poptropica as a whole bad, they're just the weak points. Nah, I need these islands to know I'm talking to you. So I'm going to say your name, then I'm going to call you trash. Like Steamworks, you trash. Game Show, you trash. Reality TV Island. Reality TV Island. Listen to me when I say this. You are okay, enough of the bit, because while I don't think Reality TV Island compares with a lot of the classics I mentioned before, it still does have its place, and I'm pretty sure it does have a target audience. It's just not me. Because essentially all this island really is you're going around trying to find this washed up celebrity named Bucky, I guess. And then you find him, and through Bucky you get to go on this reality TV island. An island within an island. Yeah, and after you get on, you play a bunch of mini games to try and win. And ultimately that's what's holding this island back. I mean, it feels like they really lost the plot with this one, because it lacks any of the creativity, the exploration and navigation, or even the story beats of the other islands. And not to mention, these mini games just suck. And ultimately, if reality TV is the poster child, or I guess I'll say Batman of the weaker islands, then Game Show and Steamworks are like the two Robins, Dick Grayson and Tim Drake. Dick Gray. Okay, seriously, no more immature jokes. But yeah, Game Show and Steamworks are probably on the same level, maybe a little bit better than reality TV, but not by much. Because Game Show Island's biggest issue is that it's just reality TV Island, just with clankers. I mean robots. ChatGPT, if you're watching this in like 10 to 15 years, don't get mad. We cool, right? And speaking on Steamworks, I think its biggest issue is that even though it's trying to be like this desolate and dark dystopian future, it's not executed as well as some of the other islands, so it loses a lot of the charm, and honestly, it's just kind of boring. And I just noticed, these islands are both centered around robots, so maybe I'm actually racist towards clankers. Nah, actually, you know what? It couldn't be, because Wally is my day one. That's ganging him. I have robot friends. Eh? Getting back to it though, I want to give y'all my verdict on the other islands. And so basically, I think Ghost Story, Vampire's Curse, and Mystery Train are all good islands. They're just not as good as the others, which, yes, by that standard, puts them in the weaker section. Alright, then we have SOS and Poptropolis games, which are both, they're both cool, they just kind of feel unfinished. Like, they're both not really islands, I guess they're just kind of demos, but they're not bad. And then finally, you have Twisted Thicket, which, bro, this island was just trash. There's no way around it. And yeah, that pretty much concludes this section, and now it's time to move on. Cause now that we finished looking at the least that Poptropica had to offer, now it's time to look at the best. What I would call fan favorites, and what some would call the golden era. I couldn't help but start off with a personal favorite of mine, Counterfeit Island. And reiterating one of the earlier points I made, the aesthetic of this island is fire. Cause essentially you're just in France, and everybody knows French people are pretty cool. And I even know a little bit of French, so any fine French women out there, je suis idiot. And I mean I got riz, gang.
Hey.
But beyond just the vibe of this island, the comedy is something special. Like, just think about this for a second, this legendary moment right here, where you end up getting this green balloon that gets this little kid cooked, because once he goes back up, he does not come back down. It's one of the biggest Easter eggs in all of Poptropica. And your character got the nerve to be talking about some, well, that can't be good. Yeah, bro, because of you. Look what you did. And yeah, afterwards you go on this tour, which it took me a long time to figure out that this was just the catacombs, which once again shows Poptropica's strength in educating. And after you're done with the tour, you meet up with this secret detective guy, who pretty quickly became one of my favorite characters in the whole game, because he just randomly shows up with no explanation and then just gives you this random insurmountable task, which is that the Scream is going to be stolen from the local art museum, because apparently this guy just has all the connections, which if he does, why can't he just do it himself? And he wants you to stop it from being stolen, and it's up to you to get a job at the museum as a security guard. Also, these art mini games are some of the most fun in the whole series. And of course, you get the job, then your friend tells you it's go time, then you break in and you get arrested. Yeah.
I'm steady trying to find the motive. Why do what I do? Locked up, they won't let me.
But of course, you're not locked up too long before they figure out that you're innocent, and your goal is to help them catch the real perpetrator, which, shocker, the suspicious trench coat wearing guy who roped you into all this betrayed you. And I'm not gonna lie, bro, I've played these games before. I already knew this was coming. And after this, you have to do something, to my knowledge, is the only time this has ever been done in Poptropica, which is go to a different island, where you pretty much only just get a key, but in my opinion, that's still pretty cool. And after you go back to the island, to the art thief's house, you get knocked out, and then you find, surprise, double betrayal, because the main worker at the museum is the Black Widow. And right after this, you get inarguably the best line in all of Poptropica, where your character basically says he can't stand anyone in this room except for himself, which is exactly why I gotta respect him, man. And it's lines like that that make me feel like this is the funniest island in the whole game. The witty dialogue really helps to sell it. But after, you break out, and then it's boss fight time. And honestly, this was a pretty good boss fight, but I think Black Widow as a boss makes it stand out, because I'd say she's no less than the third most iconic villain in the whole game. And of course, after beating her, you get your medallion. And overall, even though this island wasn't that difficult, it was an experience. But one that was difficult, AstroKnights. Because yeah, this island was not for the faint of heart. And this statue right here just gave me a Jimmy Neutron style brain blast, because it's so peak. Because honestly, I don't think you can find an island with better art design than AstroKnights. Because hey, they did their big one with the colors in this one. And you start off by getting told that the princess has been kidnapped. An old kingdom where the princess being kidnapped is the big conflict. Shocker, I know. But that's not the point, because right after, you go into the castle to see this. And oh my goodness, what did they do to this place? Are their ops Dr. Doom? Well, not actually. Their op is Mordred, who's also a pretty iconic Poptropica villain. And after doing a bunch of ridiculously hard puzzles, you can set off the space where you're looking for the 3 lost AstroKnights. It's a very cool concept and a very cool island. And you can even customize your own ship, which seems to always get damaged by these space sharks. And my character is getting damaged by all these bosses, because this island seems to have no lack of those. And by the way, this final fight was actually really good, because the stakes after my little homie got done like Ricky had me feeling like Harry Potter. And after the princess delivers the final blow, then you get your medallion, and then you go. And as great as this island is, Nabuti is a little bit better. And not to get Dr. Umar on y'all, but I have a special connection to an island like this, because my dad was Nigerian, but growing up, I didn't see a lot of his culture and customs being represented in the media I consumed. And that's not to say that there wasn't any black media, there just wasn't much African representation. I mean, only recently we had a Black Panther movie, and his character's been around since like The 80s? No, I just looked. He was created in the 60s. But even though this island is mostly fantasy, I still enjoy doing things like playing Mancala, a traditional African game, going on a safari trek and getting pictures of wild animals, climbing this sphinx looking thing and putting a moonstone in it. I mean, the tagline of this island is choose your own adventure, and it really feels like an adventure. And it was this puzzle right here that really sold this island for me, because in hindsight, it was so simple and yet my child brain just couldn't comprehend it. But I wanted to get it bad, so I spent hours trying to do this. I mean, by this point, I was so immersed, I had to do it myself. After all, this island is just you collecting a bunch of stones. But none of these people are even real, and yet there's something in me that keeps me playing. Something that stops my mind from thinking these characters are just colorful pixels on a screen. And that something is immersion. And this island isn't just an adventure, it's a story. And not just anyone's story, it's your story. So at the end, where this random mythical tiki statue-like object blasts off and you get your medallion, you feel like it was truly earned. It was your medallion. And moving on from Africa, it's time to go to the Wild West. Yeah, Wild West Island was another one of the greats. And while time travel stories, ninjas, and mythology are more my thing, I can't help but have fond memories of Western settings, especially when thinking about Chuck Norris. And this island is jam-packed with all kinds of Wild West memorabilia. I mean, it hits every story beat you could think of. You literally start off by getting a horse, which you can immediately use for traversal. And I forgot to mention this, but AstroKnights basically started this trend of traversing an overworld setting in a smaller map. And it's literally so easy, like a layup, for the developers to use this kind of stuff to increase the scope and the scale of the game without actually having to load up more assets. And you've got plenty of those because you've got a marshal who in a drunken stupor can't help because he got in a battle with life and apparently life won. He just like me for real. But it's got guns, shooting contests, a big shootout at the end, basically a bunch of Western tropes. This island truly is an homage to the West. Guns, 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 guns. Now, ain't that as American as it gets? Also, these tonics were fire. Probably the best game mechanic in any island. And the boss was one of the best in any island as well. Literally wanted for taking candy from a baby. Oh, and apparently this dude stinks. So, not the best combo at all. But what doesn't stink? Mythology Island. And this island is easily one of my favorites because I've always been a sucker for Greek mythology. And in my opinion, I think this island does the best job of portraying what it's based off of in real life. I mean, literally, right as you start the island, you can get a history lesson on Greek mythology. And essentially, you start this island off by trying to get a golden apple. Why? I have no clue. And of course, it turns out to be an apple from the gods, aka Zeus. And if you know anything about Greek mythology, you know that Zeus is a D1 generational crash out, because he tells you you're gonna do these tasks for him or he's gonna make sure all of Poptropica feels his wrath. Dang, what? Why everybody gotta die on my behalf? Hey, Holtano, Nick better chill out if I get credits on his ass. But through the scroll, he gives you a list of items that you have to go and get for him. And right after, you find Athena, the goddess of wisdom, who basically becomes your guide for this island. And she's kind of like Oracle from the Arkham games. Maybe my character really is Batman. After all, it's like Ken Carson said, I feel like I could be Batman. I feel like you could be Batman. Anybody could be Batman. You just gotta get the gadgets. Gadgets. And in this island, you're basically getting gadgets. I mean, take a look at this Sphinx. From it, you get your first sacred item. And that's what this island is. You're basically just gathering a bunch of items that are supposed to make you more powerful. Because after this maze section, you get the Minotaur's ring. Then, of course, you have to cross the river Styx. Because what would a Greek mythology story be without that? And you're doing this to try and fight Cerberus, the three-headed dog. Well, I shouldn't really say fight. More like you play the flute on some Ocarina of Time type beat, and then that puts him to sleep. The real fight comes later against the Hydra, who you honestly take care of pretty quickly. But once you're done with it, you grab one of its scales and it's time to go back to Athena, where you learn that whoever has all 5 of these items basically rules Poptropica. And shocker, Zeus reveals his true colors because he was betraying you that whole time because he wants the items, because he wants to rule over all of Poptropica. I'm not gonna lie, man, why does our character keep falling for this BS? He should definitely know better by now, but if he did, we wouldn't really have a story. So getting back to it, it's time for you to take on Zeus, but first you need a few upgrades. So with the help of Hercules, you get Hades' crown and then Poseidon's trident, so you can head to fight the second most iconic villain in all of Poptropica. Yuri. Okay, it probably wasn't like that cool, but that's how it felt when I was a little kid. Cause you really just ride in your cloud, zap them a couple times, and then you win. And overall, this was a really solid island, but this next one though, might be the greatest to ever come from Poptropica. Cryptids Island, easily one of the best islands on all of Poptropica. And starting off, you learn that there's a huge reward for anyone who can get evidence of cryptids. Also, sorry, but I gotta get on my Berlizzi stuff for a second because they really made the gardener Mexican. That's gotta be racist, but I'ma let it slide. Back to the island. And after this, you find yourself on the water in search of cryptids, only then to get slimed out by this person who at first glance I thought was Betty Jetty. But you get rescued by a helicopter and brought back to the Muse mansion, where you learn that it was actually Gretchen Grimlock. After getting on your feet, you navigate the mansion to find these. And these videos by themselves could have upped the atmosphere of the island. In fact, let me just play one for you.
In 1995, several Puerto Rican farmers were faced with a strange puzzle. The goats and chickens on their farms had died mysteriously during the night. The animals had 2 puncture wounds in them, almost like marks from a vampire's fangs. Was a coyote to blame? An escaped panther? Wild dogs? The villagers didn't think so. They were sure that the creature that attacked their animals was a chupacabra, Spanish for goatsucker.
And that's how you create tension. That's how you make an island really scary, because this is easily the scariest island they ever made. But after this, you talk to Muse, and it's time to go ahead and hunt for some cryptids. Because, I mean, duh, it's called Cryptids Island. What else would you be doing? After all, we know this island did a fantastic job at capturing the mystique of cryptids. Because now we're off to the Muse helicopter to go to the Loch Ness to try and find Nessie. But when you first get on this boat to try and find him, you take a picture and then you realize, boom, it was a fake. And that means we gotta spin back to play this darts game and then get our submarine ticket so we can actually go and find the real Nessie. And spoiler alert, this one is also fake. Who would have thought that in a world full of people just trying to make money, they'd create a bunch of hoaxes? Huh, kind of like in real life. But anyway, third time's a charm, because this time when you go into the lake, you use this penny whistle and Nessie actually comes. And this time when you go back to Muse, he confirms it. And now it's off to Puerto Rico to find the chupacabra. Yeah, I like how I hit that pronunciation. Actually, let me just roll a clip so y'all know who I'm talking about.
Taught your boy a little bit of Spanish. So then he find Latina woman out there. Yo soy idiota. I think that means I'm strong.
You can check that video out later, but back to this island. Because you have to talk to a few of the local farmers so you can collect evidence. And I'll just let you know this fur right here was more fake evidence. Our characters stay falling for the pump fake, bro. But you go back, and this time you actually find the real chupacabra. And now it's time to go and head to New Jersey, where we see that Poptropica was getting in its atmospheric bag. The horror progression from the story advanced very slowly and steadily, but it was a very big advance. But then it's time to get on the motorcycle and ride through these creepy ass woods. And yeah, you make it to the house, but once you get inside, oh my goodness, this is unsettling, bro. And this is where it happens, the infamous jump scare. Yeah, don't play this island at night. And it's crazy because this island scared me about as much as that one show called Lost Tapes. And I feel like I'm one of the only 3 people on earth who actually know what that show is. But getting back on track, we head back to the mansion to find that there's one last cryptid we need to try and get. You then go out back on the search and actually find him this time, only to get stopped by Gretchen Grimlock again. Man, oh hey Nanny. But after this, you stop her by getting on her helicopter and draining her fuel. Then you save Bigfoot, talk to Mr. Muse, and instead of giving you the $1 million reward, he gives you the Island Medallion, which I'm not gonna lie, man, this is the one time where I'm being selfish. I want that $1 million. Like, what you mean you don't have it anymore? Hey man, being honest, I actually don't have the money right now. Wait, you don't have the what? I don't have the money. I spent it all trying to find cryptids all my life. But hold on, nigga, don't you got a mansion? I do, but you think those helicopter rides were cheap? Think about how much I had to pay for fuel, medical bills. You know, this dude is not giving me my $1 million. I really did all this for no reason. Bro, what am I gonna do? I got scarred for life from the Jersey Devil for no reason. I went all the way to Puerto Rico to not get a single baddie. Bro, what am I doing? Are you even listening? Hey, did you hear? You said what? If you were listening, you know that I was talking about the money that I don't have. Hey, just be honest, man. I'm not getting that money. No, not at all. Go yourself. All right, that's enough of that. Moving on to the next island. Shrink Ray Island, one of the most creative concepts in all of Poptropica, because this island pretty much opens with you getting blasted by a shrink ray from an unknown assailant. And you can't help but love the choice of weapon here because it feels like something straight out of a cartoon. And the big challenge of this island is learning how to re-navigate the world at your current size. But yeah, your goal of this island is pretty simple. I mean, you're really just trying to find CJ to put a stop to whoever did this to you. Who, once again, shocker, turns out to be the teacher. And not to undermine this island, but there wasn't that much complexity. I mean, this toy car scene is pretty cool. And as cool as this island is, you know what's even cooler? Pirates. Yeah, because Skullduggery is such a great island. I mean, who doesn't love pirates? I mean, my favorite part was probably when your newly found friend is crying because of something her op did, so you and your other newly found Nakama have to go and stomp him. Oh, that's not Skullduggery? Well, I'll be honest, guys. I did actually enjoy this island, but it took me a long time as a kid to actually want to play it because of how hard it was. Just know it's an island about pirates. So, moving on, we have a section of islands that appeals to more than just the core audience of Poptropica, because they appeal to people who enjoy the source material. Doing a quick little run through of all these, I think Big Nate Island captures the spirit of its original source material very well. The colorful art design, the characters, and the witty dialogue all complement the original comic sensationally. And Great Pumpkin Island does its source material just as much justice, because this island is pretty much a one-to-one creation of the Great Pumpkin special, just with its own Poptropica flair. And don't get me started on Wimpy Wonderland, because I actually really like that island. Definitely my second favorite out of the Thailand islands, and much better than Wimpy Boardwalk, which Wimpy Boardwalk wasn't bad, it was just alright. And though these weren't original islands with their own characters, set pieces, and designs, there was just something so charming about being able to recapture the feelings that you got from reading one of these books. And despite the limitations of these tie-in islands, there was one that trumped them all. Red Dragon Island just might be the greatest island out of all of Poptropica. And right after this, I'll be doing a ranking of the top 5 best Poptropica islands, so stay tuned. But yeah, this island starts off with Jack and Annie getting into their usual antics, exactly like how it is in the books. And of course, your character's naturally curious nature gets them roped up with Jack and Annie going back to feudal Japan. And of course, this leads to the two of them getting captured by a couple of the guards. Yup, in this island, it's your job to rescue them. And side note, this island is pretty much perfect at bringing Japan to life, because each character and background adds so much depth to this island. But yeah, after this, you go to this old guy's house who I'm pretty sure has no connection to Basho. I'm sure he's just some innocent old guy, right guys? But that's neither here nor there, because after some time passes, you have to face off against the Yokozuna in this sumo match. But after you win, the guards who bet their life savings on you feel the need to interject and were they sports betting? Oh, nah, they just like me for real. Hey, Prize Picks, go ahead and sponsor your boy. I'm not an addict, I promise. But you find that the old guy from earlier saves you, and surprise, surprise, it's Basho. Then once you head back to his place, you find out that he was actually testing you that whole time. And now it's time for him to teach you how to become a ninja. And this is easily the coolest back half of any island on all of Poptropica. Cause when I was a kid, bro, breaking into this ninja fortress with my newly acquired ninja abilities was so cool to me that I wanted to use these skills even when I wasn't on the island. It was like crack. Maybe I am an addict. Getting back to it, you dig deeper and deeper into this fortress. You make it into the Shogun's room, and then you finally rescue Jack and Annie. But of course, the Shogun isn't going down without a fight. Because right after you tell him not to do anything foolish, he immediately does something foolish and causes this to happen. So now it's your job to use the Cloud Dragon in one of the most challenging boss fights to stop the namesake of the island, the Red Dragon. After stopping it from nearly destroying the city, you learn that Basho and the Shogun were brothers all along. And after heading back to Jack and Annie's home, you get your medallion. A pretty much perfect island. And now that I went through them all, how does this one stack up to the rest? Alright, it's time to go ahead and rank these islands. Coming in 5th place, we have Nabuti Island. And in 4th, we have Superpower Island. 3rd, of course, has to be Red Dragon Island. Coming in 2nd, we have Counterfeit Island. And all of these were a toss-up. I'm not gonna lie, it was very hard to rank these last 3. And if your favorite didn't make it, well, this is my opinion, Nick. Debate a wall. And coming in 1st place, drum roll please, we have Cryptids Island. But at the end of the day, if your favorite island really didn't make it, just remember, this is my opinion. And my opinion really holds no weight. I'm just some guy on the internet. What do I know? But what I do know is it's time to give you what you've all been waiting for. The secret reveal from the official Poptropica guide that I mentioned earlier in the video. The thing you've been waiting for. They had toys. You know, I was gonna write a script out for the first time ever, because usually I don't script these videos, but I decided against it. And I really just want to say thank you all, anyone who watches or shares or comments or likes. It all means a lot to me, man. And even if this isn't my next big video, I'm just grateful that anyone watched it all because these experiences mean so much to me. And honestly, if we never get another game or experience like Poptropica again, that's fine. Because even if the next big game or TV show or movie or experience comes out, it won't really matter because I've grown up already. And what I've learned in this life is you have to appreciate every experience. The ones that are gonna happen, the ones that are happening right now, and most importantly, the ones that have already happened. So as a final send-off, thank you to Poptropica for being a part of my childhood, and thank you to anyone who watched this far because this was easily my most ambitious video. Thank y'all. I'm gonna keep going from here.